Grey Cup Stories, brought to you by Rona.
For a Canadian football player, a Grey Cup ring is the ultimate symbol of success. It represents the apex of their athletic achievement and is often the highlight of their career. It is a unique, one-of-a-kind heirloom that is irreplaceable and priceless. And perhaps no Grey Cup champion can attest to that more than former Winnipeg Blue Bomber Dan Huclak. With his story, here's Dan's former teammate and three-time Grey Cup champion, Chris Walby.
I was just going down to the pain clinic down in the Health Science Center here in Winnipeg. I walked across the street and there was something stuck in my back. I don't know if it was a knife, a finger, or a gun. I didn't know I was going to get hit, stabbed, shot.
In a situation like that, you just are happy to get out of it with your life.
The Grey Cup, the champions of Canada!
The year was 1984. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers had just snapped a 22-year championship drought, and a young fullback named Dan Huclak had just won his first Grey Cup ring.
Well, we finally got our Grey Cup rings, and you know, everybody's just jumping up and down celebrating. It's the top of the mountain and there's no feeling better.
I can't think of a more prized possession for a Canadian football player.
The Huckster, as we called him, won another Grey Cup with Hamilton in 1986, but that first ring, well, that was always special.
There is no feeling of replacing the first one.
Dan played 9 seasons in the CFL, retiring in 1987. But the Huclak name was destined to adorn the Grey Cup once more.
I remember getting a chance to visit the Grey Cup, and I actually went through and saw his name on there. And you know, I was a young kid at the time, so I said, "Oh, Dad, do you think I could get my name on there?"
Dan coached both his sons, Corey and Jason, all through minor football. Corey became a star running back and played for the University of Manitoba. Just 2 years into a CFL career, he found himself sipping from the very cup he grew up idolizing.
Ball down, ball through, and the Montreal Alouettes are the 2009 Grey Cup champions.
That's the ultimate goal. You want to get that ring, and when you do, it is the most special day that you'll ever have.
I just told him I was so proud of him, and he came back and the compliment he gave me, he says, "Dad, you taught me everything I know," and I had a tear in my eye.
Dan and Corey are one of only a handful of father-son Grey Cup champions, and that family bond made their Grey Cup rings even more precious. It also made what happened on November 22nd, 2010, even more devastating.
Mr. Huclak was in the area of McDermott Avenue and Sherbrooke Street.
I get over onto the sidewalk here, I turn around, I start walking. Next thing you know, I feel something in my back. And they had asked me for some money, and I said, well, I didn't have any money on me at the time. Next thing I know, I got kicked. As I went down to the ground, went down to my knees, one of the guys just pulled the ring right off my finger.
He was physically assaulted, robbed of this property, and the suspects fled the area.
I wasn't feeling sorry for myself. I was just really, really mad, pissed off.
You could see that he was hurt by it. He was missing something for sure.
We received tips throughout the investigation after putting out 2 composite sketches of suspects.
It was a story that got lots of coverage. The players off that '84 championship Blue Bomber team are revered. And that just added to the outrage that the public felt over the fact that Dan had to go through a mugging in broad daylight and lose something as valuable and dear to him as his Grey Cup ring.
I just hoped that they would find it for me.
Days turned to weeks, and weeks turned to months. Every lead turned into a dead end.
Really, I didn't think I would see it again.
I honestly thought it was gone.
And then, out of the blue, here it was. My wife goes down and gets the morning paper. She opened the door, and she came running up to grab me and said, "Look at this, you won't believe this." And here was my ring sitting on my porch. I was ecstatic. Definitely put it on right away. I think I took it back to bed with me to make sure it wasn't going anywhere.
He was like a little kid on Christmas morning. For it just to show up like that was pretty special, and to see my dad get a piece of him back was pretty awesome.
We may never know exactly who was responsible for returning it and where this ring has traveled during that time.
To this day, I wish I knew who it was, because I would like to thank them very much. You look down and it's like, wow, you know, it's back where it belongs. You know, and you start reflecting on the guys that you went to war to get this ring with back. So it gets a little emotional when you start looking back, and now it's back on my finger.
He was always very happy that he had to, because he has 2 sons. So he would always say, you know, when the time comes, I'll pass them one to each of my sons. And I just think that that's something that he wanted to be able to do.
Now I have one of each, and I have 2 great sons who I both love equally, Jason and Corey, and they've each got one of their dads to pass on to their sons or their daughters. So that's quite special for me.
Fans can get an up-close and personal look at the Grey Cup and Grey Cup train here in downtown Winnipeg through Saturday. Before it continues then, its journey out east. Sarah Orleski, TSN, Winnipeg.
Grey Cup Stories, brought to you by Rona.